Hello everyone, my name is Diego Ovalle. I'm a student from the BTS of Game Programming and Game Design here in Luxembourg, a place where they teach us every kind of thing that we need to know in order to create video games. In my case, more focused on the programming side. And today I'm gonna show you the creation of one of my level designs. It's a level resembling a Quake map, if you're familiar with those types of video games. These types of maps are very common for arena shooters, games such as Quake, Overwatch, Halo Reach, if you know those titles, are very common of these kinds of maps. Those games have these kinds of maps because they're super fast, they're somewhat symmetrical, super simple to understand, and super simple to grasp at the very first minutes of gameplay. Uh, the Quake map has an essence that none of them other have because it's a very fast-paced game. It has a lot of verticality, a reduced penalty when dying, besides losing the match and such things. For me, this was a very interesting challenge to tackle, and I will show you how I did it in this video. So, starting with the paper design that we all know, every time I start designing a level at first, what I do is, of course, follow the basic creative process, gather an idea, which in this case I already had. It was to make a Quake map, but I just didn't knew where that map would take place. After a bit of investigation and with the rules established in my head that this level has to be somewhat realistic, or at least much more realistic than the Quake levels, and something that's pretty unique that can help with the verticality of the gameplay. These were like the requirements for the level. I got the idea of oil rigs. If you take a look at oil rigs, they're pretty big structures with a lot of verticality, and they're typically taller than wider, which is something that I really appreciated from this designs and these concepts, because it's literally what I wanted for this level. So after I got the references completely done, I started with the top-down view of my level itself. After I finished the very first level, which is this one right here, it was somewhat simple to get the ideas of this top-down views. But after I finished it, quickly realized that I was going to need something else to visualize this level, something like a side view of the map, allowing me to visualize even better the verticality aspect of the map in itself, and how the different floors are separated and such things, as well as changing a little bit of the heights of everything that's in the level. In this case, I made the top 10 views that you can see around here. You will see later on that these drawings are a bit changed afterwards. They are not completely the same as the final result because, of course, in level designing, over the iterative process of designing a level, there's a lot of change within the design itself. So these models are going to be changed afterwards, and I will indicate precisely which kind of things have changed and why as well later on. Here I have a bubble map of the whole level in itself. It's also serving as a legend because it's color coded. A bubble map where I have everything connected. So I want to have a level that's interconnected in every possible way to each one of the zones. So if you're either on the lower platforms or the scaffolding zone or the top zone, you can go from the top zone to the scaffolding zone, from the lower platforms to the scaffolding zone, from the top zone to the lower platforms, and from the lower platforms you really don't have that much access to the top zone. But it's somewhat simple to get from the lower platforms to the top zone. I'll show you later with my GrayBoxing a little bit more of the actual design in 3D, so you have a better idea of it. But you have a lot of things in all of the different zones. You have a bunch of components, a bunch of collectibles, a bunch of weapons as well, and different decorative elements that also serve as obstacles that the player has to tackle whenever they are traversing the level in itself, which makes it a bit more interesting as well. Because of one of the most important things that I realized afterwards when I was going to do my grayboxing is that there must be a way to easily interconnect the different levels of the map without compromising the movement of the player. So after some testings I did with people that play the map in the early stage, so when it was somewhat like this, very resembling the level design I had first, so this paper design, I first got a playtesting session and I got feedback out of it, and I also got the idea of making platforms, putting platforms all around the bottom floor to make it up to the second floor by all means, for not cutting the traversing of the player, making it easier to get up there, making it more seamless, making it more smooth to get from the bottom floors to the second floor. But there was a problem, like usually. Like always, there's problems. In this case, it was the second floor, and I will show you why right away. As you can tell, if you look at my paper design, the second floor is in between a roof and a floor. Of course, it's an enclosed space. So how can I make players go up and down easily without sacrificing too much movement flow? At first, I thought of stairs. Even here in the paper design, you can see that my initial thought was getting some stairs up and down to make it to these floors, for example. But after the testing, I put the stairs and I tested it, and it quickly was proved to me that it was not good. The stairs were not good at all. So what can I do to make this be fast enough to not cut you down on your flow too much, but still not be super fast, so you require a lot of skill to complete this kind of traversing, so like going from the second floor to the third floor. After some brainstorming with people that playtested my map, I got the idea of this: an elevator that would take you between the first and the last floor of my map seamlessly, also going between the second floor as well. So instead of having stairs here that lead to the third floor in this case, or stairs here that lead to the first floor, I have this small elevator contraption that will allow the players to go from the second floor either to the third or to the first with no issues whatsoever. It was pretty difficult to balance at first, considering the spawn points of the players that I had already thought thoroughly, since they can't collide but be too far away from the weapons or any kind of collectible, and they should be positioned so whenever the player spawns, they have a great view ahead. Like for example, this is one of the spawn points that one of the players will have. They have a great view ahead with a possible path that's linear, even though they have many more possibilities. The secrets or the critical paths are designed to be followed from every single spawn point ahead. So you can, from this spawn point, have a clear view that you have to jump to this platform, to this other platform, and ahead up to the second floor if you'd like to do that. Or you can also go from this spawn point to the left side, but you don't really see that other side right there, where there's another possibility for you to, well, go to the second floor, unless you already know the map and you've played it a couple of times. You won't always realize all these kind of things. So for first players or beginner players, these spawn points, like for example this one as well, it's really important to have that first line of sight to be really clear and to communicate everything that I want to communicate to the players so they don't feel overwhelmed or lost in the level. So the elevator was positioned at first in many places. It was positioned in this corner, in that corner right here, where the launch pad is located at, which is the second option we have to go up to the third floor from the second floor. So you can either take this launch pad, launch yourself to the second floor to any kind of direction you want. It depends on how you take the launch pad, or you can also take the elevator. So it's technically two elevators, as you can see, that are going up and down. They are synchronized, and they are two elevators that are synchronously going up and down. And I made this instead of one single elevator because I wanted to have some kind of play with this. I want the players to have some kind of gimmick using this. This also makes the flow even faster. So if a person that's down here on the first floor wants to go to the second floor because he knows the location of a person that's on the second floor and he wants to hunt them, they can take the elevator, and while they take the elevator, the second person, so the guy that's on the second floor, the person that's on the second floor, would take the elevator as well. So they will take this elevator that will lead them to the third floor. Meanwhile, the other person is still going to the second floor, leaving some gap, leaving some breathing room for the people that's being haunted to either collect some things in order to recover themselves, like health packages or armor, to prepare themselves a little bit more for the battle. So it's not entirely unfair for these people to gather into fightings, but they have a little bit of room to breathe using this type of mechanics like the elevator right here. The elevator was built exactly on the opposite side of the launch pad, also following this mechanic or this kind of gimmick. Because if the person that went to the second floor by taking it from the first floor leaves on the second floor searching up the person, they will search the person a little bit on the second floor and they will quickly realize it's not here. It's not a big floor. You can check most of the angles by simply traversing through it a little bit. You can check most of the angles, as you can see. The line of vision is pretty wide. So the person might pick the elevator, but maybe the elevator is not in a good position, so they might choose to take the launch pad, launch themselves ahead to the until the third floor, and hunt that other person that they were hunting for before, easily and faster than if they would decided to take the elevator in this case. This map is built entirely in verticality. So there's a tower in the middle. There's of course three floors and different variations of heights in every kind of way possible. Like for example, these platforms all vary on height. They have different heights and they all have different ways to traverse or to get traversed. In that sense, we have here a lot of containers. You will see later on the polished version that these resemble actually containers that are of course on different heights. People can get on top of them and have different lines of views, different lines of sights, even lines of action for fighting or gathering into fights with other players. Like for example, here in the helipad, you have vision to there as well. And here on top of this container, you have a pretty good vision to the helipad. You have a pretty good vision to the launch pad zone. So you have a pretty wide vision to also for the elevator. So on top of this container, it's a very good spot to either wait for people that are coming up from the second floor because you can have all of the vision here, or tackle in a fight people that are already on the helipad. Tower in this GrayBoxing was completely changed and discarded by one thing that I will show you right now on the actual polished version. So let's hop into the polished version of this map and I will show you why I changed this tower and why I consider the new tower is much better than this one. I will go through a little bit of the tower so you can see maybe a bit more of why I changed the design of this tower. Here it's the most OP weapon of the map, which will still be maintained on the updated version, but I changed how the whole tower looks and how it plays as well. I'll show you right away. So here is a more polished version of the level in itself. You may realize things like, for example, a sun, a big sun that's moving throughout the level in itself. You may realize things have now objects, actual objects and textures to them. Different floors, the different platforms here, these tubes. Um, Most of the things have changed as well. These are now actual fences. We have small computers here, tables, and such things. The elevator looks like an elevator now. And we have the new tower that I was talking about before. This new tower exists for one single purpose, and it's to hold the best weapon in the game. This tower is different from the previous one that we just saw in the fact that it's rounded. This is made like this for players to better traverse around the tower instead of having a block in the middle that blocks most of the lines of movement of the players. This rounded tower makes it more efficient for players to actually go around this upper section of the map. So as you can see, the tower features two moving platforms as well. Here you can jump into one of the platforms from this container, for example, which is typically the route that I'd like to follow. Jump on this platform, then jump on the second platform and jump here. Because as you can see, there's no way to get on top of the tower without actually using these elements. So this is also another thing that I changed from the previous version of the tower, which is the way to get up to the tower. Before it was going through stairs, which is something that we already know that we dislike. It's not something that's cool, it's not something that feels great for the players to traverse. So I changed it to platforming instead of having to run ahead of a stairs or something like that. So it's pretty much the same principle as we did for the bottom floor. So passing from the bottom floor to the second floor by jumping onto these platforms, it's the same principle used here in the tower instead. So you would jump from those platforms that are moving to these platforms on the crane, and from here you have a pretty direct jump that you want to pass through. So you want to pass through here, through this glass right here. It's a shattered glass. You don't see it that well because it's pretty dark, but you may see that it has some cracks on it. Well, I will show you right now how it looks if you're actually playing the level. So here we are in the same spot I was before. You can see here the jumps are pretty tight, but they're simple enough because you just have to run and jump to the second platform in order to reach it. It's not something that you have to measure technically, it's something you just have to do, embrace the jump. This case, we have this other jump that's also super simple, and whenever you pass through the shattering glass, it breaks and it has this cool effect of the glass breaking down. Here on top of the tower, you may appreciate that there's two platforms with two buttons, and you will ask yourself perhaps where is the weapon, because there's supposed to be a really good weapon here on top of the tower, but I can see nothing. Well, if you press both of the buttons, for example, let me do that real quick. I press these two buttons. You can realize the center part of the tower got removed, and this small platform rised from the middle of the tower, bringing the weapon. And as you can see, since I took that much time to take the weapon, to actually take the weapon, it went back down. So that's also a cool mechanic that I included within this tower right here. So if I press the buttons again, you can see that the weapon rises and I can pick it up. So I have my homing rocket launcher here that I can use in order to, well, blast people away, pretty much. So yeah, that's the whole gimmick of this tower now. It's much more easier to traverse to the tower or the tower in itself using the actual mechanics of movement that we have in the game. And also another cool thing about the fact of these two platforms right here, if you think about one player coming through here, you may think of it going to this button, then going to that other button, in order to, well, press both buttons in order to get this weapon. But as you may realize, this is open. Any player that's down there on top of that green container or on those platforms on top of those containers or ahead or somewhere around there, also on the helipad or wherever, they can shoot me if I'm going through these platforms. So the most optimal way, of course, is for two players to come to this tower, and one presses the button, the other one presses the other button, and then this rises. But that will lead to a fight, of course, because everybody wants the best weapon in the game. So they will gather probably in a fight in the middle of the tower or before in these platforms. They will try to shoot each other if they have a weapon or whatever. So that's also why I make the this small platform right here that has the weapon go down after some time, because if the people that are gathering in a fight, they do not commit to picking up the weapon will disappear and they will have to reactivate the sequence after some time, which is I think right now 1 minute before you can reactivate this small contraption right here, this small sequence of buttons, in order to make the weapon appear again. So it's a pretty cool thing. It's a pretty cool thing to do here. So we talked about a lot of things, about a lot of design aspects, but we've never talked a little bit about the traversal of the map. So I'm gonna make this daylight again and I will show you something really cool. So as you may realized already, this game has a pretty cool movement in that sense. It's pretty fast, it's pretty controllable. You have a lot of air control in order to perform your movements. You have a lot of speed, you move way too fast. You can see I break myself in the air a lot. I stop a lot in the air because of the high air control that you have. And that's done because there's, for example, plays like the one I'm gonna do right now, which is this, that you can get from that platform to this platform right here, and you can drop down to the very first floor in order to get here and maybe play some other strategies or perform different movements. You can see as well that these platforms are a little bit inclined, and that's done precisely to make the players land softly on them and also guide them to the top of the second floor. So you take the platforms like it's nothing, pretty much. You just run and jump. That's why everything is made big enough and wide enough, and it's also the inclination of the different platforms. It's also everything is done like that precisely to make the player traversal much more seamless and much easier in the game itself. Of course, you can perfection the movement. I'm not a I'm not a perfect player even in my own level, but the movement can be way more perfection because of also one mechanic that I have in the game. You may realize that you can run. I'm currently running, but if I press shift, I will sprint. So I will traverse way faster the distances. That can be done to do things cool like that. For example, you see a jump that maybe you will not reach because of distance or something like that. You can impulse yourself because whenever you're pressing shift in the air, it's adding acceleration to your player, so it will allow you to reach further distances. If you look yourself like you're short on any distance, you can just do a small impulse in the air by sprinting that will allow you to, well, get to those distances or get to those platforms that you're jumping towards. And that's also a pretty cool thing, I think, in this game, about the traversal, about the movement mechanics of the game itself. I think it's a pretty solid thing to say that it's pretty fun as well to play. So it's really cool in my opinion. There's of course plenty weapons. There's a weapon for each floor. There's this one that's like really broadly. It's like making me shoot completely out of out of scope or out of like if I had a huge recoil. But there's other weapons like this one, for example, which is a single shot weapon. I'm clicking all the time, but I can only shoot once every now and then. And you can see it has a lot of impulse, so it has a lot of push. These weapons are also thought for the level in itself. I will put some images of the. I will go through the documents right now with you a little bit for the weapons, so you know a little bit of what I'm talking about in the levels and why they make sense to be on each one of the levels as well. While level designing, we're also prone to do documentation, of course, over the things that we are designing upon or the things that we are working on. Like for example, the paper design that I showed you before. We are also doing this type of documentation. In this case, it's an FDD, a feature design documentation, about the weapons of my level. This is the petrol pump. This is supposed to be the weapon that's going to be on the second floor. This is the weapon that's going to make you go all crazy because it has a lot of recoil, has a lot of spread. This weapon is supposed to be on the second floor because it has a meaning. This weapon is supposed to have a lot of spread, but if you're in an enclosed space, it's way easier to get the aim to be right instead of the instead if you're on an open space with this weapon, you may get the weapon to be well less precise in that sense and has a small mechanic that if you hit a player with it, the player will get slowed down. So it's way easier to hunt them down and to hit them with the weapon in itself. The other weapon, for example, is the blunderbuss that I have right here, which is the last weapon that I picked. It's quite literally a blunderbuss. It's supposed to be on the very last floor, on the very first floor, depends on how you see it. Because since it's a very open space with very small amount of land to land on. This weapon pushes the players that it shoots towards, also deals damage, but it's also pushing the players. So this weapon is supposed to be used by pushing the your opponents whenever you're fighting with them. And if you're jumping, if you catch your opponent jumping with this weapon and you shoot at it, your opponent will be launched completely away, super far away, like 5 to 6 meters away. So this weapon benefits from the people that's actually doing parkour or doing movement like jumping and jumping through platforms and so on. So the very first floor is very good for this weapon because if you even if it's really hard in accuracy wise, it's really hard to control as well. If you manage to get a player that's currently jumping or something like that, it's an insta kill for you. So it's pretty simple, but it's also risky. And for example, the homing rocket launcher as well. It's again, as I explained, the most OP weapon of the game. It's supposed to do a lot of damage. Of course, it has an area of effect, so AOE, that will damage the players that are within, even if the weapon doesn't directly collide with them. And this weapon has the homing mechanic as well, which makes it also difficult to use and also very dangerous to use because in order to use the homing, you have to scope with the weapon. In order to make the homing shots, you have to scope for the weapon for a small amount of time in order to make, well, your shoots to home directly to the players, exposing yourself by making you stand still for a small amount of time. But in that small amount of time, people can come and find you while you're staying still and shoot at you and kill you, perhaps. So it's a really interesting thing to take in consideration as well. It's a really powerful weapon because it may give you a lot of kills, but it's also dangerous to use. That's why it's on the very last floor because it's a well open space. There's a lot of possibility to use this weapon, and there might be a lot of players in that on that floor because it's more prone to for more players to be around there since it's the biggest floor of them all. So yes, that's basically it for the weapons. It's very interesting to do these kind of things as well, and to perform this kind of documentation in order to think more thoroughly the actual design of the elements that are included in your levels. So that's everything for today. I hope you enjoyed the video as well as I enjoyed making it and creating the level. If you enjoyed everything that I've said and if you think that my work is of your like, you can always contact me via the ways of contact that I will leave in the description. I will leave also my itch.io profile for you to look at my other projects, and precisely as well as this one for you to download and test by yourself. You can also contact me via either LinkedIn or Gmail that I will attach as well in the description for you to look at. I hope I have caught your interest in my ways of thinking, in my ways of level designing, in the ways I work and such things, in order for you to, well, want me to work with you. If you ever had any kind of idea, any kind of project that you would like to bring to life, I would be more than glad to work with you in order to make that dream or that idea to be real. So I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you had a good time. See you later.